Hey guys, this is the timesheet. I've got this pulled up for you, already downloaded to my computer. And I'm going to go through it. I'm going to fill out the first 3 shifts, talk to you real quickly about some of the expectations we have. So if you can, just please follow along. This was the first pay period of January, so the 2 pay periods are the 1st to the 15th and the 16th through the 31st. So I'm documenting that first pay period of 2019. The first shift I worked was the 1st, and I came in at 10 a.m. and I left at 1 p.m. for a total of 3 hours that day. That was with John Doe, who's an SLH and an SEI client. So there's 2 things I want to focus on before we move on. The time needs to be an actual time. Please don't just put the number 10. We want to make sure that it's pretty clear that it was right at 10 and or right at 10:15, but that it's just documented. The next thing I want to focus on is that at the very bottom it talks about documenting time in quarter hours. What that means and why it's significant is because the state actually only allows us to bill in quarter hours. So the state will look and we'll send in a form that has the client's name and the service code and how many quarter hours we worked with them. So, for example, if you worked until 1:15, that would be 3.25 hours. If you worked until 1:30, that's 3.5 hours. If you worked until 1:45, that'd be 3.75 hours. Please don't ever document that you worked until 1:08 p.m. for 3.08 hours. That's not an option for us. We have to change that and audit that anyway, so please document and round to the nearest quarter hour. Even if it's, 1:17 and you work over 1:15, just round down to the 1:15 and it'll equal out. So for this one, I'm going to keep it pretty even so the math's easy. 10 a.m. till 1 p.m. Please make sure you get the a.m. p.m. correct and that the hours are right. You're going to double and triple check those times, client, and the service code. The service code and the individual, you won't need to guess. I know that might be a little confusing if you've not ever seen this type of work before. However, it really is pretty straightforward. They won't jump around. They're going to be the same billing code and service code almost the entirety that we work with them. So if you have any questions about what the service code is of the individual you're working with, please contact your supervisor and he or she will help you out. I'm going to show you now what happens when someone works with someone the same day but needs to bill 2 separate billing codes. So this shift is going to be from 3 p.m. till 7 p.m. That's 4 hours. And it's actually going to be SEI, which is supported employment, which means I went and I worked on the 3rd of January from 3 to 7 p.m. for 4 hours with John while he was at work. I worked on his work goals. They were to work the front end, figure out cashier work, and work on some of the change interaction, being quicker at doing the math. That same day, I stayed with him. I stayed with John from 7 p.m. until 10 p.m. But I didn't work supported employment with him. I worked supported living with him. So I was with him that day on the 3rd from 3 p.m. until 10 p.m. But I broke down the shift into 2 shifts because they were separate goals and separate focuses. Do you see that? If there's any questions you have with that, please don't hesitate to ask. We need to make sure that we're documenting. You will be trained on it with each individual. You will know the code. You will know when you need to document it and when not to document it. The very bottom, sorry, I'll continue on. If you're going to work more shifts with different people, Ashley H, Joseph P, Tim M. I mean, it doesn't matter. You're going to have an open, you're just going to document whatever client you worked with, whatever shift you worked with. They need to match the client hourly logs, but this timesheet is specifically for you, and it doesn't matter how many different names you have documented here. Okay? I hope that makes sense. So now you're gonna total the hours here after we've doubled and triple checked these hours. We see that there's 10 there. So you're gonna come down here and you're gonna just put down 10, and then you're gonna sign and date it. Again, you want to really make sure that those numbers are correct. Also, to be aware, these papers are turned in, the timesheet and the client hourly log are turned in the 1st and the 16th of each month. If you'll notice, those are the next day after each pay period. So the 1st to the 15th, the next day is the 16th. So this is actually due on the 16th, which you'll see I've dated, before noon. If it were this pay period, the 16th through the 31st, it would be due the following month, the first day of the month, so the next day. This would be due January 1st. Now all that's left to do is save this. So you're going to save it to your desktop. Hopefully this pops up pretty quick. But you're going to save it to your desktop, and then you're going to compare your client hourly logs and finish your client hourly logs, and then you're going to send this as well as your client hourly logs together. Five, four, three, two, one. Come on. Okay, so now you're going to click the desktop because you want to make sure you save it to the desktop. And you're going to save this with your first name and last initial, and then the form name. So the timesheet. It's very clear. I know it's Jake P's timesheet. And then for the timesheet only, I'm going to document the date range of the pay period. So 1/1 to 1/15. I make sure it's saved to the desktop, which it is. And then I'll make sure it remains a PDF, and I'll save it. So now you'll see it's right there on the desktop, ready to be completed and sent with the client hourly log. That's it, guys. That's the timesheet. Again, make sure you recognize it's specifically for you. Make sure it's accurate as can be, and make sure that you send it together with the client hourly log.